Colleagues, good morning. I should say colleagues, this is my second stint this kind of event. We're here, I think, after the monetary policy statement, after the 20th of February. So this is something that we'll keep doing until we get to 2023. So let me begin by thanking the Daily News, ANZ group, I think I said it right, correctly, for again organizing this event. Today we have a full house, I can see, and in a full house it should be, because we are here to discuss a very important issue. Colleagues, begin by saying that I think you noticed that last week the World Bank upgraded Zimbabwe, or rather confirmed Zimbabwe's position as a lower middle income country. And within the same group as Senegal, Ghana, and other countries around the world. It just shows you that we are making progress, despite what you think. The income, GNI, the gross national income per capita of about $1,800 per person. I think we are making very, very good progress. But again, it's not lost to me the steep climb we have to make towards Vision 2030 in terms of being an upper middle income country. That's quite a steep climb indeed, but we're ready for it. We're working towards that. So it really means that I think after this last reform, in my view, which is a major reform in terms of currency reform, we need to focus on growth and development. Growth and development, and leave behind, because we'll put behind issues around currency reform. We'll have achieved that part, then we focus on growth and development. So you find that in my messaging going forward, I'm focusing on growth and development. Because we are done with currency, we're done with the fiscal side, we have a framework for managing the fiscals, and now we've got a framework for managing issues, so we focus on growth and development. Let me say a few things. The country has been using a multi-currency regime since 2009, obviously dominated by the US dollar. I remember when we started, it was US dollar, rand, and others, and then very quickly, it became just US dollar. Actually, it became a mono-currency in US dollar terms. So that's what really happened. But legally, pounds were accepted, euros were accepted, Chinese yuan, Botswana pula, we accepted in terms of that regulation. And it did its job, by the way. The multi-currency regime did its job. It dealt with inflation, and that was very good. But however, the multi-currency regime stifled growth. As a country, we could not utilize monetary instruments to influence economic activity, and gradually lost competitiveness compared to major trading partners. I always said something about the twin deficit. If you look at the current account deficit during the multi-currency years, that was quite high, somewhere between 8 and 14% of GDP, a very, very high current account deficit. So we're paying a price for using a strong currency, which increased our appetite for imports on a weak domestic productive base. The situation was worsened by recurrent unfavorable weather conditions, low commodity prices, and high appetite for importation, which I've just mentioned. It resulted in declining foreign currency inflows, liquidity and cash shortages, as well as confidence challenges. The government, in response, introduced bond notes as an export incentives to promote exports and substitute imports. However, the initiatives were not supported by fiscal discipline. The resulting fiscal deficits were financed through treasury bills and recourse to the central bank's overdraft window. We're in an awkward situation. Here we are in a multi-currency regime, and there's no fiscal discipline. The reason why you introduce you start using a US dollar so you can have a hard budget constraint, but we didn't have it. 2017, 2016, 2017, 2018, with high budget deficits. We should not have had those budget deficits because we're in a hard budget constraint situation because we're using hard currency as our currency. And then if you look at the use of the overdraft window, $3 billion basically in terms of that overdraft window, way above the 20% limit and so forth. I can assure you that in the last 6 months, we have not used the overdraft window. John Mangudya is missing us right now as a client. We're not giving him business. In fact, every month we're paying salaries from a cash positive position, and it should be like that. It should. I've never seen such happy accounting generals in a long time. Now, the financing of expanding fiscal deficit combined with widening trade deficit exerted pressure on the foreign exchange market. This resulted in the resurgence of the power market, whose exchange rate became the anchor pricing, built the anchor of pricing of goods and services in the economy, and the resulting inflation. This is true. It's true that whether you produce your good locally or whether it was imported, everyone was repricing and pricing on the back of the power market. Defying the economics, but I guess that's what they were doing, the economic agents after all. Now, in view of these economic imbalances, as you know, government in 2018 enacted the TSP, which seeks to address major policy reform areas required for stabilization, rebuilding, and transforming the economy to upper middle income standard by 2030. And currency reform is at the core of this. I was reminding the peers the other day that if you look at these fiscal issues, it's not a small matter. There was a time when civil servants didn't know when they would get paid. They had no idea. Now they know when they get paid, that date is published, and on that day they receive their salaries. You also recall that in November, we paid bonuses on time. In fact, 1 month ahead of time in November. And we're beginning to clear all our debts. We're paying off our debts, both domestic debts and also our creditors as well. So the fiscal side is working very well. Things are quite progressing quite well. So that's the first leg of the twin deficit. Now let me switch to then the other leg, which is the monetary leg. You know, the monetary sector reform did not begin on the 24th of June. That was basically the culmination of a journey. Basically, on the 1st of October last year, and we separated the FCA accounts, and that really created the first, sense of a domestic and foreign currency. We didn't tell you that, but it was obvious. We didn't tell you that. It was obvious. And then we kept going. Then in January, we then basically introduced a new formula for pricing fuel. That was also a quasi-currency reform action as well. Some of you were clever, you figured it out, and said, it means that the implied exchange rate is 1 to 2.5. That was correct. We carried on, then on the 20th of February, the governor, basically through the monetary policy statement that day, introduced an interbank market, and we moved away from the fixed exchange rate of 1 to 1 to the US dollar. Now, since then, the market has been all over the place. You know what has happened since then. So then on the 24th of June, after a few pronouncements by myself, some of you criticized me and said, the minister is talking out of turn, he's talking about the currency. I said, okay. We decided to eliminate, on 24th of June, multi-currency regime and adopted a mono-currency regime through the enactment of SI 142. Now, what does this mean? It means that from now on, the Zimbabwe dollar, which is legally defined through that SI instrument, is your RTGS dollar, bond notes and bond coins become domestic currency, sole legal tender within the borders of Zimbabwe. It means that when you go to a shop, which you're already doing, I hear, I was doing my rounds over the weekend, checking if everyone was complying, they are complying. I also comply. And everyone is changing the foreign currency into other TGS or whatnot in order to effect any transactions that they need to effect. Now, but outside your borders, of course, if you want to make any payments outside, you need to, in the usual way, you have to use foreign currency. So your Nostra accounts are still intact. I'm told they are still intact. Mine is still intact. I would say which bank, so nothing changes. Nothing changes at all. And I want you to keep your Nostra accounts, don't touch them. If you go to your US dollars under your pillow and your mattress, they are yours. Okay? But when you come to the shop, use Zim Dollar. US dollar you can keep, no problems with that. Absolutely. Let me highlight the following, that really, in a way, what was going through our minds when we introduced the SI 142, at least through mine, was looking at the fiscal constraint. The re-dollarization requires the compensation of salaries in US dollars. And given the tight fiscal space, and fact that we don't print US dollars, at least we don't manage a monetary policy that way, we be unable to meet that commitment. So that's one of the reasons why we thought we should move faster on the introduction of the Zimbabwe dollar. No, that was not on the cards already, that was January, but we moved slightly faster. Not to mention the loss of competitiveness. The US dollar was appreciating against the currencies of Zimbabwe's major trading partners, which made Zimbabwe wages and final products too expensive to compete. This resulted in trade imbalances, which was harmful to local industry. That's what a hard currency like the US dollar does if it's appreciating against soft currencies. If you look at the liquidity issues, given the scarcity of US dollars in the formal market, smooth transaction could not be guaranteed. I'm also aware of certain banks that the governor was working with in terms of supplying dollars who were scared of basically transacting with Zimbabwe because of the enforcement restrictions from the US Treasury. So that already tells you that you cannot be on that path for too long. Of course, the loss of monetary instruments. I'm sure it's obvious to everyone that we now have monetary instruments because interest rates have just gone up 50% overnight, and we will not hesitate to raise them further. If someone is asking in Parliament, but this inflation is going to 100, why haven't you pushed interest rates beyond 100, at least 100? He said, no, we won't do that yet, because it's also a signal to speculators that we're very serious about using the interest rate to deal with speculative behavior. Now, let me say this, that in my view, in terms of macroeconomic reforms, I think we are done now. I'm saying we are done. Fiscal, monetary, we'll continue to fine tune, of course, but we are done. In my view, I can't think of any major macroeconomic reform that's left out there, unless the PSN governor, maybe there's something, I don't know. But these are the the big things in my view: fiscal consolidation and currency reform. And I think that will make good progress on all of those. So expect our competitiveness to improve. As I said, we should focus on growth, and then we should basically increase our productivity, see how we can work with industry to support those who are industrialists in this room to access additional facilities for you. But I'm finding that industry is also not very responsive. We have a facility, we've been working hard with the African Bank, just for the private sector, trade finance facility. I've been working hard, hopefully we can launch in the next 2 weeks, to launch a private equity fund, not as government, we are just a young provocateur of $750 million with some American investors. And we'd like you to access these facilities. They are yours. They are not sitting on my books. They are yours. We are arranging a facility with South African banks, trade finance facility. Again, these are your facilities as industry. We would like you to access these facilities. So we start to move away from government borrowing on behalf of of everyone. I must add a few things though, that as we embark on these reforms, we have, as you know, signed up to the S&P, the Staff Monitoring Program of the IMF. We're doing very well on that, by the way. We have no issues with fulfilling the S&P objectives, because the S&P basically is monitoring us as a country on the targets that we set for ourselves in the first place, and we're overperforming on all those macroeconomic targets. So there's no issue. However, two issues have been slightly slower, but we've caught up, which is the repeal of POS and IPA, but that's moving quite nicely. So more power, we should be able to put that in place once it goes through Senate. I think by end of this month, and IPA by end of next month. Those are two key pieces of legislation, which are also part of the S&P performance targets. I'm sure there are a few civil servants in here who are saying, okay, Minister, after the introduction of the Zim Dollar, how about our salaries? We are going to deal with that in the next week or so. We're going to make an announcement in terms of a cushioning allowance for civil servants. And industry, please, can you follow suit and do the same for your employees? Because what we're noticing is that you're making these fantastic profits, but you're looking after shareholders, or you look after employees as well. Also increase their wages so that they're able to deal with inflation pressures. As you know, that we launched the Tripartite Negotiating Forum by enacting a bill as a way of really, addressing our social contract as we move forward as industry, government, and employees. So colleagues, in summary, we've made very good progress, in my view, in our economic reform agenda. I think that we'll reach that target of an upper middle income country by year 2030. I'm very determined that we do so. Can you imagine if we were to maintain a growth rate of 6%? I'm not saying that it's going to be 6%. If you did that, if we did that as a country, that would go a long way in moving us closer to that target. It's possible, but it's only possible if you have flexible monetary policy, you've got your currency, you're managing your fiscal as well, your foreign direct investment, you improve the environment for doing business. You can only achieve those if those things are in place. There's a lot of detail, by the way, on the currency, which I won't go into. I think this will come out during the Q&A. For me, I just wanted to make these few remarks. Maybe let me also hasten to add that on the other areas of economic reform, again, we're making very good progress. When they're looking at partial privatization of Willowvale, I'm looking for investors for Willowvale. We've reduced our equity hold. We've agreed to reduce it down to 26%. We're looking for investors to invest in that company. We start manufacturing cars locally. We're also looking for investors, new investors for allied timbers. Busy cleaning up the governance, leadership is stronger, and we're pleased with progress in that company. So please, we're looking for investors. If you're in the room, put your hand up, or at least let's speak afterwards. We're also looking for investors for Zim Parks. We've decided to sell off the equity, offload the equity, or in this case, some kind of joint venture arrangement for our commercial arm for Zim Parks, with fabulous locations across different parks, national parks, but the facilities are run now. So we need investors for those as well. Of course, what happened to the investors who promised to come into silo food industry? They are very quiet right now. Two of them wrote to me, said they are keen. I'm still waiting. There's equity for you. And again, we agreed to sell down as government, down to 26%. We can bring in new management and change things and make sure that that company works. I can go on. So we're very serious about the state enterprise reform agenda, and we're willing to looking forward to working with you as investors. Again, POSB is making progress. IDBZ, again, we're making progress in terms of finding suitors for those assets as well as partners with government. So our reform agenda is progress, and hope you can all support it. But today we're here to talk precisely primarily about the currency. So I'll stop here, and I'm sure we'll move on to panel stage. I thank you.
Another big round of applause for the Honourable Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Professor Mthuli Ncube.
Thank you.
He ended his remarks there with a sales pitch on the businesses he would like to sell. May I advise you, Honourable Minister, that at ANZ, if you use our platform to sell anything, we charge 5%. Whatever deals are done, please know that there is something called Zino ANZ. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard, there was a call for employers to follow suit as government makes an announcement on salaries. And thankfully, in the room we have the Employers Confederation of Zimbabwe represented here, MCOS. MCOS, thank you for joining us. They are represented by Dr. Murefu. So this is a room that has all the relevant stakeholders in this discourse about a new currency. You also have the opportunity to win, courtesy of ANZ, and we have a product called News on the Go, which is a mobile news service. To subscribe, you simply go onto *109 *2# and you subscribe. Now, to win, all you have to do is subscribe where you are this morning, send a screenshot of confirmation text to 0774 556 062, and you could be a winner. There are 10 prizes that we'll be giving away this morning. That number, once again, 0774 556 062. The subscription USSD code is on the screens. It is *109 *2 *2 *4#. Okay, a little different to what I have on my notes, but we'll go with what's on the screen. All right, with that, after the finance minister has spoken, always fitting to, when we hear from the fiscal side, good to hear from the monetary side. So allow me to call upon the man with the best, the office with the best view, and probably the hottest office in Harare, the governor of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, Dr. John Mangudya.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Good morning, Honourable Minister, and if there are any MPs here present, senators, government officials. Let me thank the ANZ for the invitation to come here to make some presentation. After the minister has spoken, I thought I should be led by very few slides, only 4 slides to share with yourselves. Yeah, sure, indeed, I got the best of you in terms of office. The Republic is building down, so I do half of what I see of what from the top. I think it's, you see that Zimbabwe is very beautiful. When you see the Harare, the trees, the green grass from the top, it's very interesting. I think it's good. So welcome all those who want to sightseeing Zimbabwe and you have meetings there. I've got very few slides to share with yourselves, and also to thank the minister for the presentation. And I thought it was very important that I'll just take you through my slides. I hope I'll be able to be seen from here. What I'm doing here is to say why the separation, what we've done. As the minister have said, that this journey of currency reform started way back, 2018, of course, after the separation of the FC accounts on the 1st of May 2018. And then we also went further to liberalize the exchange rate in February 2019, wherein we established the exchange rate. And we also, as I put it in the slide there, we also put in place measures to deal with the legacy debt. Many people have been asking what is legacy debt. The basically they are blocked funds. We are working on that to ensure that at least there's confidence building in the market. And we are looking at many ways of doing it. Many people might know what's called the Brady bonds. If you look at the Brady bonds, this is basically after the US Treasury, Nicholas Brand, in the 1989s or late 1980s, when the Latin American countries were in debt, the US Treasury, Nicholas Brand, came up with a number of debt initiatives to ensure that this debt will be paid. And that's where the name Brand bonds come from. And it has been done in many countries. Look at Argentina, Brazil, Bulgaria, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Mexico, Morocco, Nigeria, Philippines, Russia, Poland, Venezuela. There are many countries that have used this model. So it's basically a model which says that how do you deal with the blocked funds? We used to have blocked funds in this country before. And during the time when I joined the ZiFM myself, in the early 1980s, we used to have blocked funds. And therefore, it's how you treat them. But the government, definitely myself and the Minister of Finance, were looking at this matter. And we are ensuring that at least it will be resolved, because we need to ensure that at least there's some resolution. So we are putting measures in that regard. So that's legacy debt, historical debt, blocked funds. Why blocked funds? Because blocked means that you're going to send the money out of the country because there was no foreign currency. If you talk of IATA, for example, if IATA, his money was there, they could have taken their money out of Zimbabwe. But unfortunately, because of lack of foreign currency in Zimbabwe, we won't do that. Therefore, the money was blocked here. It becomes what we call in-country funds, which is awaiting remittance. And therefore, it needs some solution to that. Why is it very important? We also need to increase confidence in this country. So then going forward, we also remove the multi-currency system by the introduction of the SI 142 of 2019. These measures, they are well carefully thought of, and they are in sequence. And therefore, as Ms. said, it's not by chance or by fluke, but that it was out of carefully thinking about it. So, what is the import of SI 33 of 2019, which is my next slide? That's import. Basically, the SI 33 of 2019 import the Reserve Bank to establish the RTGS dollar as a medium of exchange. It established the exchange rate, the interbank market of foreign currency on a willing seller, willing buyer basis. We have transformed it from a willing buyer to willing seller, because we know that the people with the money are the sellers. This market, we've noticed that it's more of it's a seller's market. It was a buyer's market. Because the demand for foreign currency is higher than that on supply. Therefore, we have just changed it slightly to willing seller, willing buyer. We're also sending a message there that we are not controlling the exchange rate. We believe in market-based exchange rate. Many times I've read people say that the Reserve Bank is controlling foreign exchange, the interbank market. Right? We also sell and buy from the interbank. And therefore, we have no appetite to control or to influence that rate, because we don't have to make the foreign currency ourselves. We believe in the market-based foreign exchange system. But sometimes Zimbabwe, being Zimbabwe, there are more perceptions than realities. And that's our country. We love it in that manner. And sometimes we're influenced by non-factual material. So I think it's good. We are also, in the same manner, we are restoring domestic competitiveness. That was the import of SI 133. The idea is to correct price distortions, but to strengthen demand for domestic products, and also to ensure that foreign currency is used for the purpose it is supposed to be intended. And we also come up with a number of initiatives to ensure that at least we manage those who are selling foreign currency, that there is no abuse of it. Then the import of SI 142, the minister have said eloquently, to us, the major takeaway on that instrument are two things, are three things. The first one, remove all the multi-currency system to make the Zimbabwe dollar the translating currency in Zimbabwe. Second part of it is to introduce the Zim Dollar, which is represented by the RTGS bond notes and bond coins. Many people are always asked what is the difference between a currency and paper money. I think we should spend much time on paper money. A currency is that money that you use for a medium of what? Bit of exchange and a unit of account. But in the case of a currency, we are saying what is the currency for Zimbabwe? It's the Zimbabwe dollar. What is the currency for USA? It's the US dollar. For South Africa, I see my brother, the ambassador here, is rand. But then, on that, these currencies are also backed by paper money called fiat currency. So most of the time, people confuse the term currency and the fiat money. Fiat money is paper money. So if you go to South Africa, the rand also becomes the fiat, but the fiat money is paper money. It's representing the currency. In UK, the pound, it's also paper money, but the currency is called what? It's called pound. So that's the currency. But so in this case, establishing a Zimbabwe dollar does not mean that you are also changing the money to paper money called Zimbabwe dollar. The currency called Zimbabwe dollar, but it's represented by the bond notes, the bond coins, and the RTGS, and all electronic money in the system. As the instrument is very clear. So I think there's always that confusion which I've seen in this country. I think someone says maybe it's the mission in terms of being educated too much. And there are people in this country, they are so educated. So simple things, they don't make sense to us to them because we are so educated. But some of us, we want to go back to basics. So at the end of the day, there's always a difference between a currency and the paper money. And therefore, when people talk about currency, they talk about paper money. But some of us are talking about currency, which can be converted to other currencies. That's the position. So when you hear that the rate yesterday was 8.88, does not mean that the paper money was 8.8. It was currency which we exchanged into the other rate of currency. So I just thought it was very important for Zimbabweans to understand that. So we also, in the same vein, 142 of 2019, it says holding of foreign currency is not an offense in Zimbabwe, as the minister said. But we are saying later use for transacting purposes. We heard some stories that in the rural areas, some people, the usual people, they went to the rural areas, demand that money is longer useful, give us it 1-to-1, because, it's typical of Zimbabweans. I mean, we try to take advantage of other people. I think we need to change that type of behavior. People, you see, the US dollars, the pounds, you can still keep them. But when you go to buy in the shop, exchange it at the to change it at the bank or whatever it is. And I'm quite happy over the past week, Minister, we have seen a number of people exchanging their money, especially individuals and those with access and NGOs. Just to give you some numbers. On Monday, for example, last week, we saw individuals and NGOs changing their money in an amount of $800,000 was changed by individuals and NGOs on Monday last week. And on a Tuesday, we saw about $1 million being changed in the banking sector and the federal changes again to their RTGS money so that they can transact. And on a Wednesday, we saw it increasing to $1.7 million through the banks, not federal changes. These are all through the banks. And on Thursday, we saw $2.9 million being sold through the banks to ensure that they exchange many individuals, NGOs. And on Friday, it was 1.5 million. So during the course of last week, we saw about between $8 and $9 million being exchanged from the US dollars into their RTGS money, into their Zim Dollar money, so that they can go in transit. That's very good. So we have seen that moving, and we're quite happy with that progress. We hope and pray that it continues that way. Because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to say what are the response like after that change. So free funds in Zimbabwe, which represent, free funds in this country is below like that since 1991. What does it represent? It represents those people, individuals with their own foreign currency, they can put their money in the banks, they can deposit in their FC accounts, they withdraw their cash up to $1,000 per day, if they so wish. But when they go and buy from the shops, we expect them to sell. They be able to change or the banks so that they can go and transact. And that's normalcy. That's why I put as a topic of this presentation that the transition to normalcy. We are moving to normalcy as an economy. We need to be able to be normal, not to be abnormal as an economy. So that's what free funds, and also free funds also refer to funds from the NGOs, funds from embassies, and other consultancy fees for lawyers, doctors, any accounting firms going to the region receiving their money in this country. They all come under free funds. Those funds will be like that since 1991. We don't touch them. They're yours. You just go by the book by using what is permissible in Zimbabwe. And you have seen those funds also increasing. They are separate from export funds. So export funds, we are exporting our GDP. Therefore, it's not a part of free funds. And these are the ones that have got conditions whereby you've got either 50% retention, 50% for your own use, or to sell to the Reserve Bank, or to sell to the market. And you also have funds from the mining sector. Again, those ones are sold in a different fashion. So that's what is happening in this kind. So there are free funds, export retentions, domestic nostros. These have been retained under Instrument 142 of 2019. So there is no sequestration of foreign currency for any individual in this country. We saw many social media stories saying that government is going to force liquidation of all those funds, that people are going to lose their foreign currency. No, nothing like that. We are not as bad as people say sometimes it's very encouraging. You read many things in this country to say, imagine in the same country where these things are done. Because you say, I see that these things have been done, but the government have done this, or that the minister have issued this statement. Then I say to myself, which countries are these people staying? So I think there is, I've noticed, that's why maybe because I got changed too much. I've noticed that there is, in Nehemiah, which I was referring myself sometimes, today I'm referring to something different. But then when people were trying to build the walls of Jerusalem, others were pushing them backwards. And, the Sanbanis, the Arabs, were pushing, they say, why are you building these walls of Jerusalem? So I find the same analogy in Zimbabwe. Others were busy trying to build. Others are busy trying to destroy. Unfortunately, it will take more time to build. You need to be stronger to build than those ones who are removing the bricks. Just imagine you build the 5 costs of bricks, someone comes tomorrow with 3. It means that you need to work very hard to ensure that it is finished. By the time that you are going to spend to build the house, you are going to spend maybe it's 5 years, because someone is removing a third of what you are doing. So the effort, but some of us, maybe because we're born stronger, we continue to do that. We continue to sleep out of our homes, looking for resources for this country to continue to progress. As long as we have got the opportunity to do so, we serve with the passion and we are very patient. A requirement that the basic most of foreign currencies, they continue to be used. There has been a confusion again on domestic foreign currency accounts. Or what we've been saying was that since there is now a local currency called Zim Dollar, let's now use the Zim Dollar for purpose of transacting in Zimbabwe. But the foreign currency account that are there, let's now use that foreign money for purpose of importation. And that in the transition, those people who had collected the foreign currency from within the market, let it be deposited. No one's being refused to deposit funds in their domestic nostrils, because we all want the money to go into the accounts. Many people are saying that no, that is not allowed, no ways. Because there is also a transition. And life is about transition. We are here all of us on a journey. We do not know when our journey will come to a halt. We only have two things in life which don't choose: to be born and to die. In between, you make choices. Life is about choices. Either to laugh, to get angry, to insult people, whatever it is. It's all choices. But what don't make choices? To die and to be born. Now, because of that reason, we are all on a journey, and that is a transition. So during the transition to normalcy, those people who have collected money, when they were selling, that money should be deposited in domestic nostrils and use the domestic nostrils for purpose of importation. That's all what we're saying. The tourism sector, we know there are special requirements, we're also assisting them. So at the end of the day, there's money at the border post in the tourist area, so the tourism is still going to continue to increase their flows. This thing was working? Yeah. The implications of introducing the lower currency. I've said most of them. We expect stability in the foreign exchange market as more foreign currency is sold through normal banking channels. Just to give you again some statistics, as at the end of June 2019, just last week, foreign exchange in the amount of $664 million had been traded within the interbank forex market. That is from February the 22nd to June, 30 June 2019. The trades within the multi-currency, within the interbank market, the forex market, $664 million. So we're quite happy about that. You'll find that most of the money used by the manufacturing sector and fuel because of the nature of the requirements. The reduction in the trading on foreign currency in the power market, we've also seen it. As I've said that year, we've seen more people now, individuals, now selling through the banking sector, through the barrier to change. We're quite happy with that. In fact, we saw a number of queues in banks, people are selling foreign currency. We are impressed by that. I think this is a reflection that we do receive a sizable chunk of foreign currency from the diaspora. We receive about between $60 and $100 million from the diaspora. And we receive about $230 million from exports. So if you add the two, the $100 million from the diaspora, plus the $220 million from the exporters, that's about $330 million or 340. And our imports, under normal circumstances, they are between 300 and 320. So if there was efficient utilization of foreign currency in this country, what we're earning and what we're using, there's a match. But unfortunately, because human beings, if there's lack of confidence in the economy, in fact, people then tend to hold foreign currency as a store of value. That's not my work in this country. So we've seen a reduction in the power market, and we believe that we can do better. Stronger demand for foreign currency, which strengthens this value, and also that the RTGS dollars, the local dollar, is in high demand, because people don't have the local dollars. That we've noticed. Even more so after increasing the interest rates to show that these depositors also get a reward. We've also noticed that banks themselves and individuals and companies, they don't have enough local dollars. So you find that if those ones who are establishing letters of credit, if you say today to a company with a $10 million line of credit, say for fuel, you ask them to cover that LC at 1 to 8, then $80 million. They don't have. So many people always ask why that there's some queues of fuel within the Zimbabwe. Some of them is caused by lack of working capital. Banks don't, or if they were to lend to a fuel company, it is say 50% or 40%. And the margin is about, say, 15 cents per liter. If you compute that 40% only price of fuel, they don't make money. And therefore, you find that some of it is also because of those administrative exchange rate, interest burden on the economy. So, yes, we are going to continue to squeeze the market, as the Minister said. But at the same time, we need to observe the market, how it is reacting. Even those, as PS said last week, Gomatanga, that even those who are one-to-one, others are not even able to pay the legacy, that blocked funds at the reserve bank, they have no money. At one-to-one. Then you ask yourself, so who is so rich who can continue to push the rate up in this country? Becomes a paradox. Bigger companies cannot, some of them today, they cannot, when you ask to move the money from the blocked funds come to the reserve bank, so to be able to what? To find ways and means of a pathway out of this blocked funds. Others can't even give us the money. So it means that there is no money. So I think we are still in a transition. I think very soon we will transit and then find out where we are now going. But we know where we are going. We know the destination. The destination is to have a normal economy. The destination to have an economy that is producing. We've also seen that the monetary policy which have put in place, we're now using our instruments for purpose of managing the economy. Your open market operations, moral suasion, interest rates for managing the economy. What it means that instead of only looking at the foreign current supply side, you also need your own instruments which influences the foreign side. The amount of money in the market, in the FC accounts, Nostro accounts, we're sitting out of almost just close to $1 billion. And we believe that if that money is being used again appropriately, that money will be enough for 3 months cover, given that we do about $330 or $320 million per month. So that amount which is there today in the FC accounts is about 3 months import cover. But again, it's not our own cover as a central bank, because the money, our NIR, net international reserves, is that which we have control. This is outside our control, because the FC accounts for individuals and for companies. I'm just talking about a holistic and average approach. So we believe that these measures will restore confidence. We want to encourage and to urge the companies to become compliant. So at the end of the day, when this one is done, it's good for everyone, for greater good of the country, not for any person's benefit. I look at this country and say, what do we all lack in this country? Our second greatest challenge in this country is lack of production. That's the second greatest challenge, lack of production. We are producing enough even for ourselves for basic commodities. And I said to myself, what is it? We need to work on that. What are the causes? We cannot produce to meet the basic commodities, called the bread. The association is here. All food is imported. Amsterdam, we import wheat between 30 and 35,000 metric tons of wheat on a monthly basis. That's 12 to $13 million every month. 9 months in a year, we're importing. That is 12 to $13 million if it was being put into the economy for people to produce and to increase the capacity for production. That's what normal countries do. Soya bean. I've said many times again, I love production. I will tell you why I'm saying that. Soya bean. We import crude oil. I see my brother Soman is there, and my dad, the chairman of Surface Investments. We import about $15 million worth of what? Of crude oil on a monthly basis. Crude oil from 3 major suppliers. That's 11 months in a year. Our production, 1 month. 1 month supply, 50,000 metric tons of soybean. So if you use that $50 million to the rest of the economy, and you say, I know there's no money in the interbank, it means that you have no production. That's what we're saying. The converse is true. Because the companies were talking about money every day. That's the sick economy. It's the economy that is sick. It is the painkillers. Or in this case, I think painkillers you now need the antibiotics. Because it's more like it's more like it's continuous. See, all of us as we are here today. Today, if you don't listen to what I'm saying, one thing you go about in this room today is production. That we don't produce. 9 months, and you see, I come to my office, the president is here. And if you go and check what I'm saying today, you can find it correct. Get inquiries, we want foreign currency, want LCs, want to import cooking oil. No one ever said I want LC to go in and buy things so that you can buy pivos, so that you can produce soybean. As simple as that. So if you use $50 million every month for cooking oil, $12 million or 13 to import bread, chingwa, through which we are taking our money from Zimbabwe to Russia, to Mexico, to Canada, and those farmers are rich. Here we're making ourselves poor. Milk, 45 to 50% is imported. We used to export milk in this country. And nowadays we are all importing. If we're importing fuel, diesel and petrol, and this is okay because we don't produce it here. Then Zimbabwe has got the best type of soils in Zimbabwe. So I'm saying that this is our second greatest challenge in this country. Which is the first one? First one is confidence. First one is confidence. Lack of confidence in this country. I don't know why. I'm not saying this because I don't know. But what I know is that there is no production. But I know that that's the second one. So, it reminds therefore then, when I was looking at the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 25 to 40, when Jesus was asked by his disciples, what is the greatest commandment? He says, the first one is you should love the Lord, your God, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. That was the first commandment. When I tried to transpose the same for Zimbabwe, I said maybe the lack of confidence both don't love each other. Lack of love. I don't see it in the country. As you said yourself, Monati, both maybe I'm in the tallest building in town. I don't see it. I'm just trying to transpose the same commandment. The second one, it says, so what is the second greatest commandment? It says, love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor like yourself, you're able to produce and feed yourselves. But we're not doing that. So it means even biblically we are failing to live as a society. And I think this is a very fundamental in Zimbabwe. We have reached a stage where we need each other much more than before. We are in this journey together. Some of us, our lives, and your also lives, it shall come to an end before you realize the promised land. Promised land, it was Zimbabwe to do very well as a country. I always look at the children of Israel, how they moved from Egypt, spent 40 years to go to the promised land, Canaan. We are almost there. We are almost there. Provided two things happen. That we love ourselves the way we love our neighbors. Provided that we do believe in ourselves. So that we can put in place measures to ensure that we continue to have a market-based approach. We have got good property rights, and that you've got a good rule of law. I want to thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, Dr. John Mangudya. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. So it was clear. We need production and we need confidence. And the Governor clearly articulated that he doesn't know why we don't have confidence. Governor! We're amongst friends. We can talk openly here. You know. And now we're going to go into our panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. And our panel discussion will take the form of a discussion initially, and then we'll open for questions from the floor, which we hope you're all ready for, and we'll try and take as many questions as we can. So, it gives me great pleasure, as your ED, events director, don't get tense, don't get tense. Calm down. You're thinking about that marinated shabu. Our panel consists of our Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Professor Mthuli Ncube. If you could come up. Honorable Minister, if you take a seat on the sofa with the red cushions. The red cushions are deliberate because of the heat that your position has at the moment. He's going to be joined by the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Dr. John Mangudya. And note how they have thick volumes with them, just for reference sake. They will be joined by Mr. Henry Ruzizo, who is an industrialist and, of course, the newly minted president of the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries. Congratulations, sir. You can take a seat right next to the governor there. It's perfect for you. They will also be joined by the chief economist at Agri Bank, and that is Mr. Joseph Verecha. Big round of applause. And fittingly, ladies and gentlemen, to facilitate this discussion, we have the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Zimbabwe, the ZNCC, and that is Mr. Chris Mugaga. Give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. If you could take a seat. Oh, you'd like to stand? Oh, Brains Mchema is also here, renowned economist. Give him a big round of applause and a big shirt, ladies and gentlemen. Real men wear pink. And to all of our panelists, as we said earlier, we have all the leading associations, confederations in the room, and also Labour is represented by all their confederations here as well, ladies and gentlemen. So, gentlemen, you are speaking to the right people. Chris, take it away, sir.
Naturally, it does give confidence when you clap your hands. So, thank you very much for the confidence. It gives me pleasure to definitely recognize the Minister. I think the Minister of Finance for such an important discussion is something we welcome. The second time, I suppose, like you said also, to be here. Governor, I saw the Ambassador of South Africa, Obabambete. We recognize you. Many members of the diplomatic corps in the room. I see CEOs of different organizations, BMOs. In order to save my job, allow me to recognize the executive of the National Chamber of Commerce. If you're here, can you just stand so that you know the paymasters from my side? I can see Kamgerme there. We also? We recognize you. A round of applause for Mike. There's a song trending of late. I think you agree with me. For those who follow social media, could it be a drama or what? The song in Shona, sometimes I would resort to Shona and say, Panudam Postor, Achimba Chipam Mthuli Ncube BT. But I think we are very. You just saw it this morning. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. My task definitely is going to be very easy. Since we have a number of experts, you see, I'll also introduce them again. Brains Mchemwa, just raise your hand. A round of applause for Brains. Brains is the MD for Oxlim Capital, a macroeconomist committee member for Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. Ruzinzo, President. We always say, President, for our BMOs, don't be too excited. Remember, one, it's a small P. Two, the term doesn't go beyond 2 years. We recognize you. Just a round of applause for him as well. My chief economist from Agribank, Vericha. You are not yet, doctor? Not yet. A round of applause from Vericha as well. And a round of applause for ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, without wasting much time, maybe let me get into it. President Chairman. New currency. New currency was introduced. New currency was introduced. In few words, what's it?
Thank you very much. I'm the man in pink, like you said, so I'll be very brief. On the new currency, my thinking is that, yes, officially, we acknowledged the existence of the new currency, I think, a few weeks ago. But if you look technically, I think from end of 2015 thereabout, we already had the Zim Dollar. If you look at the disparity between the RTGS balances then, which were about 5.6 billion, we used to call them US dollars, and the Nostro balances, which were just below 600 million, the disparity was so huge, to the extent that it was only, of course, in the eyes of the many, we didn't have a local currency, but then I think we already had the local currency. In fact, when the governor eventually introduced the bond notes sometime later in 2016, it was, of course, he said it was for export incentives. I will leave him to say that. But in my opinion, it was to monetize the difference between the RTGS balances and the Nostro accounts, because we had created a lot of domestic money in this economy. So, in short, we already had a new currency. I'm not understanding why it took the policymakers how many years now? 2015, 16, 17, 5 years to acknowledge officially that indeed we have a new currency, when in fact it was clear to everyone that we had a new currency. And I think that is where we have a problem as well from a policy-making perspective, in that sometimes we let things deteriorate to an extent that it becomes so unbearable until such time that we act.
Thank you. A round of applause for Brent. Mr. President, CZI, I think it's official. The position is we need our own currency for reasons related to competitiveness. Is that the position?
True, I think any serious manufacturer in any country would prefer a currency that the monetary authorities would have power to influence so that to improve competitiveness in the country. But having said that, in economics, I think timing is everything. When changes happen, it's the pace with which they happen. I think we heard earlier the minister, I think, saying that business has been making super profits. In the environment that we witnessed in the past 6 months, I don't believe that many businesses will be able to stand and say we've been making super profits. When things are changing so rapidly, what you think makes sense this week will totally not make sense the following week. So it's about the pace of change, it's about the equilibrium being maintained rather than shifting on a daily basis. So yes, we would prefer to have a local currency that makes our industries competitive, but it's how we do it, I think, which is more important.
Are you happy with how it was done?
A very loaded question. Look, we have all suffered. We have lost market share because our consumers cannot afford our products. We are sitting on stocks in our factories which consumers cannot afford. So the way things have happened, I think in our view could have been better, but we are where we are now, and I think we heard from the Minister and the Governor talking about what we need to do going forward. So, yeah, to answer your question, we could have done it better.
Thank you very much. Mr. Berich, I think your views are quite much known in the public about the need to push for an monetary union, not all about the requirements to join it. Do you still hold those views, or do you think it's overtaken?
Okay, thank you, MC. Honorable Guest of Honor, Professor Mthuli Ncube, Minister of Finance, Governor, distinguished guests, ambassadors, Excellency. My views are fairly modest. I wanted to, it's not about joining the Rand Monetary Union, but I might speak to it a little bit later down the line. Professor, Minister of Finance said, I wish I had the kind of confidence and exuberance that you are showing together with the governor. Unfortunately, you may bear with me. I'm a little bit less and less. Number one, I remember a few months ago when authorities were saying inflation is going to come down, and I kept thinking to myself, inflation is not coming down. It's not showing any sign of coming down. In fact, it will hit 100%. We will be lucky if we get inflation below 50% by year end. I still think that way too. I think this mountain we have scaled and the rivers we have waded, I agree, something needed to be done. I agree entirely. But I think we are still in a very fragile, frightening balance. Maybe not frightening. Number one, the issue of inflation expectations. I speak from a point of view of having been at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe for 18 years of my life, of my 25 years as an economist. And I remember very well from 2004 to 2008, when we lost our currency in 2008. In 2006, 2007, we did exactly some of the things that we're doing here today. We hiked interest rates, if my memory serves me well, over 200%, over 300%. It did not kill inflation. It did not assuage the tide of inflation expectations that the economy was going through. We printed money, we mopped, we did everything. Still, inflation headed where it was going because of money. Two, you speak well said with regards to your fiscal surpluses. And I genuinely think we are making progress with respect to that. My question is this translating into reduction in money supply in the economy? Are there chances that we might witness some numbers below 20% in terms of the money supply? Or if not, as seems to be the case now, where money supply is heading northwards, we probably are going to ignite this issue of inflation expectations. It's a whirlpool of inflation expectations that we are facing. Talking to people on the ground, they don't feel that your surpluses there. They really do not. I wish I could say something different, but you gave, with all due respect, I accept the great strides that we are making. But the last salary adjustment for civil servants was something between $100 and $129 for a teacher or for a nurse. That's not enough even to buy 25 liters of fuel. It's not enough to buy 2 packages of Matemba. 1 kg Matemba is now $82. You speak of prices coming down, and we all hope they will. I think they will at some stage. But as it is right now, since 24 June, we have seen retailers, some of them hiking prices by 15. They complied with your SI 142. Everyone is most up. Some are not, but most are. But they are multiplying by 15. They are multiplying by 18. They are multiplying by 20. Some as far as 25, 30. I was in Bulawayo last week, end of last week, talking to mines, and procurement managers are telling us suppliers are quoting upwards of 25, 30 in terms of multiplying by the local exchange to get the local Zim Dollar. It's chaos.
Yes, Mr. Manager, we agree on that, but the question still remains. So what's your take on the local currency? Do you think it's disastrous?
I do support the minister 100% and the governor. I think we needed to do something. But my big question to the Honorable Minister...
You support them, but do you think it will be inflationary or it won't be more?
Now look, I wish I could have a silver answer to that. There are issues that we definitely need to do with. Production is what the governor has spoken about. Pricing, removing of pricing distortion. I hope we have a functioning foreign exchange market, interbank market, which functions more efficiently than before. It will help to assuage the price pressures in the economy. But I think probably we need to do much more than interest rate hike. I also have concerns about the interest rate adjustment to the extent that you may well have entered this economy into a downward spiral of austerity and high interest rates, collapsing aggregate demand in the economy. And this spiral downwards, to me, may actually cause negative real GDP growth this year.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for this view. Minister, Professor Mthuli and Governor, open court from ZCTU. ZCTU condemns such flagrant disregard for social dialogue and in respect for social partners, and in particular violation of Section 13(2) of the Constitution, which obligates government to involve the people in the formulation and implementation of development plans and programs that affect them. This is ZCTU, Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Union. We are therefore consulting our lawyers, and we may file an urgent court application challenging the constitutionality of the police pronouncement, and that it also violates the TNF. I think, Minister, you just referred to the tripartite negotiating forum, which was consummated not just a few weeks ago, can I say? Constitutionality of the police pronouncement, and that it also violates the TNF Act, Section 3A, C and E. Section 3A says the function of the TNF shall be to consult and to negotiate on social and economic issues and submit recommendations to the cabinet. Section 3C says the function of the forum shall be to foster cooperation of the tripartite constituents and consult other key stakeholders and contribute to the formulation and implementation of social and economic policies. The flurry of litigations. Are you prepared?
First of all, the litigations are misguided because all the actions that I took, all the actions that we take as government are within the law. We consulted with the legal profession, both within government and outside, and verified that we acted within the law. So I'm not just sure that it is warranted to be heading for the courts to deal with SI 142. But people are free to do that. It's their legal right. That's okay. Now, on the issue, there's one issue that I want to deal with. I can only come back to the legal issues if you want me to talk about that. Some of these are already before the courts, maybe they're subject to care, I don't know. Muchama made a very interesting point, that in his view that he feels the currency issue has been on the card since 2015. And I think there's something, I think he's saying something very profound there, which I like, which is we have been on this journey by stealth until it culminated on the 24th of June 2019. There's a point in that, although policy-wise that was not the case, but in terms of market behavior, already a differentiation was visible. But why did it take us this long? It took us this long because there was something wrong with the fiscus. if you have double-digit budget deficits, you cannot introduce a credible currency. Forget it. Because you have to monetize that deficit and issue treasury bills. You cannot do it if you're running an overdraft facility with Central Bank of $3 billion and above. So we're not ready actually to introduce a credible currency. Now we are ready. And that's what happened. So that's why it took so long. Now, on am I saying the name correctly? Very clear, yes. Making some very interesting point. But inflation, who said inflation was going to come down sharply and so forth? No one said that. We've always maintained that technically. Inflation will stay high until about October. And it will take a dip. But what we expect to happen in between is a reduction on month-to-month inflation, but not year on year. You know the difference, you're an economist. So you shouldn't disagree with me on that, because those are the facts. Yeah. You also try to insinuate that, we're back to 2008, we did these things before. No, we didn't do these things before. We did not reduce the budget deficit in 2008, 2009. We didn't. That's why money was being printed to finance government programs. We know that. Right? And now we have a surplus. People are not feeling the surplus minister and so forth. Come on, that's a very cheap argument to prevent from economists. Whoever said, when the government has a surplus or a small deficit, that's an important event. Any economist must know that, because it means that your fiscus has ceased to be a risk to the economy, at least in terms of currency, in terms of valuation. As to how you use the surplus is another thing. People are not feeling my surplus. What does that mean? I'm serious. We have already said that, for a start, because of the economic difficulties, and I must hasten to say, the economic difficulties are not just being caused by the reform agenda. Don't underestimate the impact of the drought in this country. It's very, very serious. And that's not caused by the government, or the Minister of Finance or Governor, PS. It's weather. Right? It's simple, it's weather. So, but you can say, why were they not prepared? That's another question. but you see, so there are certain things that are beyond us, and we're using this surplus for social protection. We can use them. The feeding schemes, the subsidies for buses, and so forth. We need more of those, by the way, to go into rural areas. We're trying different things to cushion the vulnerable. And for the first time, we've introduced actually social protection in urban areas. Yes, surprise, in urban areas. We are now giving food in urban areas. And it's very important that we do that. Also cash transfers. So both rural and urban. In urban areas, it was quite difficult to identify who's vulnerable. Rural areas, we know, we've got a system. Chiefs, headmen, they know who's vulnerable. They tell us. We've been doing that for the last 37 years. But for the urban areas, we're learning. And also with development partners, we're getting there. And you will see us approach our development partners to ask for additional social protection, financial support. But we'll meet them halfway. So that's how we're going to use the surplus. So maybe if they're not feeling it now, they will certainly feel it in future. But in summary, you said, am I prepared for the lawsuits? Of course, I'm always prepared. I'm always prepared for a good fight. And I'm a very swift and decisive decision maker, for sure.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. So the argument is not whether the surplus is black or white in Ghana. It exists. Thank you. Governor.
Thank you. Just two quick ones. The first one is that inflation in Zimbabwe, it's more of expectation factors as opposed to the fundamental factors affecting this country in terms of inflation. The quantity of money in circulation in Zimbabwe does not justify the high inflation that we are seeing. We have seen the monetary aggregates, the quantity of money, the increase in money supply being at about 6%. We're currently still about just below 10 billion, 9.8 being a mine supply. If you compare that with 2008, those two are comparable. I have said earlier that even some firms in this country cannot afford to pay for their legacy debt at the Reserve Bank to ensure that this is the money. We sterilize the money. We mop the money from the market. They can't pay. It means that there is something fundamentally wrong with the economy. When I say the sick economy, I meant it because it's more about perceptions. It's more about expectations, hypotheses. That is people's minds, which are good driving inflation. So yes, might be right in terms of inflation, but it's not caused by economic factors. It's caused by this behavior of economics. This is why I said earlier when I was presenting that the biggest currency in any country, biggest currency is confidence. That's the biggest currency. You can underline it, whatever. You can go and Google it. The biggest currency in any economy is confidence. The second one is production. If you don't have those ones, they manifest themselves in the lack of these positive expectations. It's more like moving by sight, not by faith, so to say. So I think we need to address the two fundamental challenges of production and confidence. How do we gain those? Otherwise, what you see in inflation is a symptom of something. I've done myself the diagnosis, and I'm very right. I'm very right. What I'm still looking for are the pills, the medicines, to address those fundamentals. So yes, Joseph, when you talk about inflation, it's not more about kind of money which was there in 2008. This time around, it's these things that I'm talking about. So yes, the inflation in October, as the minister said, there's a base effect inflation, and definitely I do believe that as an economy, we need to address those two major challenges. I know that within this Augusta House, there are many people who know the solutions to those challenges. Let me end here and then listen to the solutions from the podium. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Governor. Thank you so much, Governor. He's talking about confidence, but maybe someone there is seated asking himself or herself, the confidence Governor is talking about, is confidence not a result of their policies? What comes first? Is it the confidence or the quality of policies? Maybe it will come later to you, Governor. I am hearing Zim, inflation from government side. I think you hear they are not so much worried on within that front, can I say? Your recent tweet, Mchemwa, you've been quite very active on Twitter. Very active. After picking 1.2 billion, we're talking of 1.2 billion worth of legacy debts, which I think you know government, I think the governor spoke about it. Mchemwa, you are quoted saying this will certainly result in high inflation. I think we heard the governor say, no, there's no money in the accounts. Nothing to worry about. Should we worry about inflation?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's important sometimes to look at things in the right context. Yes, that Twitter, I was referring to the legacy debts. You see, I'm so much a pro-market individual. Remember, my first comment was about the reluctance by policymakers to make the right decision at the right time. And I think that is one thing that has killed this economy. In fact, what is not killed really, we are not dead, sorry, that's bad language. That's one thing that has really created a lot of confidence problems in this economy. In fact, when we talk of confidence, lack of confidence, more than anything else, it stems from the fact that when policymakers are making their policies, they don't seem to be confident. And half the time, 3/4 of the time, not half, they tend to do the wrong thing and then correct it later, you see. So at the end of the day, it creates a lot of challenges. Why am I saying this? I'm looking now at the issue that we're talking about, the 1.2 billion debt. It all arose because we had reluctance in this economy to accept that we had the Zimbabwe dollar. And that, remember when the governor came up with the bond note, it was an important initiative at that time because we had to monetize the difference between the nostro and the RTGS balances. But it was supposed to be just temporary. But what did we do? We did not do the right thing at the time. So we kept going on with it until it became so toxic to the extent that we ended up now accumulating this legacy debt that we're talking about today. But then the question is, how are we going to extinguish that debt? Because it's 1.2 billion US dollars at 1:1. So what it means is that the differential between the market exchange rate and the 1:1 is what the government would need to pay on behalf of private sector companies. What is the interbank rate today? Say it's 8 billion. It's 1:8. So what it means is that we need to fork in 7 times 1.2. Which is almost, those that did mathematics, more than 8 billion, right? But where is that 8 billion going to come from? The history of our policy making in this country is littered with government subsidies that are usually financed from treasury bills. We did it before, we've done it many times, and I believe that we're going to do the same again, unless this man next to me is going to run huge surpluses to monetize the difference. So that is where my tweet was coming from, that how are we going to monetize the difference in terms of subsidizing that? Because it's an implicit subsidy. And my thinking is that why are we even subsidizing private sector companies? They were doing this in the ordinary course of doing business. They took up risk. And why are we subsidizing? And this is, thank you, Minister, for thanking me for that. So this is the problem that we've had as a country. And the reason why for many years we failed to manage money supply is because there are many other subsidies that the government has to, to pump into the economy. So from that deduction, I then made the view that it's definitely inflationary in the long term. Yes, today they may quarantine it, they will start liquidity out of the market, inflation will come down definitely, the stock exchange, the parallel market, but at the point of monetizing that subsidy, how are we going to do it? So that was my issue. But I should say on top of that, if you allow me, you gave Mthuli a lot of time to talk. So I believe, Honorable Minister, you have got a rare opportunity in this country. For many years in this country, no finance minister has ever been believed by the president. So you have a very rare opportunity. So you have a very rare opportunity to change the DNA of public expenditure in this country and put things right. In fact, if this economy is going to fail, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to fail because the minister will not have done something right and not the president. Because this is one person who has been given all the full support by the president, and I think we are all aware of what used to happen in this country. And one thing that I would implore the minister to do is to guarantee the independence of the Reserve Bank. For many years, the footprint of the Reserve Bank has been so huge and distortive in the economy, to the extent that I was in South Africa I came back yesterday evening, for example. So I met a few other guys in the banking sector. You talk about the central bank governor, some of them, they have never met him. They don't really know, that governor, who's that, you know. But in this country, the millers, they know the governor. The guys under the oil expressing, they know the governor. Everyone knows the central bank. It means that we have got a very So what it means, Honorable Minister, is that we've got a very strange kind of arrangement in this economy. So one thing that I would therefore implore you is to guarantee the independence of the central bank, confine the central bank to issues to do with monetary policy and full stop, and end there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The independence of central bank, I think, is under spotlight. It's very much under spotlight. The pressure minister, I think it's coming out. They will push it to go and print to honor the obligation. Industry, Mr. President, I think he had Mr. Mchemwa saying it wasn't their duty then to pick that debt. What's your reaction?
I think in the same breath, Brains was talking about the way we've been subsidizing the vulnerables in the country. A lot of that legacy debt was to do with manufacturers who were manufacturing essential commodities. They had the funds to pay their foreign principals. Remember, we were in a one-to-one US dollar to RTGS officially, but most companies could not remit the payments because we didn't have the foreign currency in the country. Yes, of course, if you're a businessman, the choice would have been to shut down the factory and let people go without. But you can imagine how difficult such a choice would be. And in some instances, I think the decisions were made in consultation with the authorities also, who said, no, your issues will be dealt with going forward.
Thank you very much. Before I migrate to the floor, there's this probable feeling that you were pushed to bring this local currency, maybe because civil servants were demanding salaries in hard currency, but you know very well that fundamentals are still not in shape for you to dance with this idea. Will you respond to that one? It was salary obligations, it was pressures to do with not having the forex money, looking at the fundamentals of the economy, which then makes the wrong move at this hour.
Before heading over to the minister, I mean, if you listen to President Chema, I think it's very clear. In some of us, our mind is very clear about this economy. In fact, we suffer from clarity. When you brought in the bond coins, it was very clear that this economy required its own local currency for the change purposes. Very clear. In 2014, 2015. When you brought in the bond notes, it was very clear that the only way to make sure that the economy survives was to ensure that at least you encourage your exporters, and I'm quite happy exporters are here. They've been exporting. The whole idea was to export so as to provide funds for the nostro that is required to support the economy from going. Worked very well. But as Brain says, the danger was that the government was spending more money than what was being generated. It's clear. And therefore it means that one required to ensure that we put a stop on the fiscal imbalance. If we had done that when we did export incentive, we increased exports and we're reducing government expenditure, we could have also survived, even at 1-to-1. It's just because the money when it was in the banks, there was confidence that money in the bank is what is value. That's why the payroll rates were lower. To me, it's very clear, very, very clear. So what Jim was saying is very correct. So when the bonds were there, to partly, in fact, our statement was very clear by that time. It was an export incentive, but at the same time, coming in to close that gap in terms of fungibility of money, giving some money to the economy. And then now what we have done. So, yes, you I mean, I'm just saying that if you had said what you had, therefore, the timing was right. Because this economy is now fast re-dollarizing itself. If you've noticed what happened about the past 2 months, there was this momentum coming into close again, going back where we're coming from. Government policy, which is the central bank also position, is that we're supposed to de-dollarize, not to re-dollarize. Colleagues, there is no economy in the world that can ever become competitive by dollarizing. It's on America. But they do print their money, and that is their local currency. For us to lie to each other here, that we're going to be able, we become competitive by using a currency that you already have. How do you make it more available? How do you make yourself competitive? So yes, in terms of timing, it was perfect timing. Why was it more like a rush? It was because the economy was rushing itself to re-dollarize, which was against where you wanted to go. So when you see a push, you also need to push backwards. And that's the position. To be very frank with you, we saw it happening. There was a momentous people re-dollarizing the economy. We also do the brakes. When you are about to go into an accident, you brake. That's why vehicles have got brakes.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. And others overturned, but this guy didn't overturn. Why? We have noticed over the past 1 week, prices are going down. Yes. You can say that. If you want to choose your prices, we are going to have no sales, unfortunately, because people, there's no money. And this is why we need the spirit of coming together as a team. When I was giving you Gospels of Matthew, I knew that you are the ones who don't want love with one another. You want to exploit the consumer at all costs. I mean, it's not fair whatsoever. But we know the fundamentals here, this economy. And we also know what we are doing for this economy. And therefore, yes, about independence of the central bank, where some of us were quite happy. The reason why in this country, you see, when you talk about independence of the central bank, it's a relative term. Relative in the sense that the central bank in this economy, just like others, we only have two clients, the government and the banks. Those are my two clients. But then if the other client is not behaving well, you need also to look after that person because of their requirements. So then provide an overdraft. So that people, I mean, in this country, they don't understand what is overdraft. They know only when they go to their banks, when they go to Bank IBC or Eco Bank, that they want an overdraft. They know what it is, an overdraft. The same entity called government, their bankers are central banks. Now, because of their books that are not balancing, that's why they end up to us. We don't want them to always come to us. But we have no choice because the customer can't, if you close them out, they won't be able to pay their salaries. That's what was happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Your MC will certainly be strong. Governor is a friend, he never bullies me. So, on the issue of, I think the question remains after this. The pressure remains. People are saying you could not afford to pay salaries. I would remain with that question. I think it has to be answered. Governor. Secondly, there is a feeling also, Governor, that there's still an element of money printing in the economy. I will come back to you later. Maybe I'm giving the floor to the minister for now. There is a feeling that there's still money printing within the market. No respectable figures might be available, but we have also to respond to that. Maybe within that same vein, I was listening to news in the morning. I think it's important to clarify also one thing. Is it a government position when they say, now we have austerity? Minister of Finance is running surplus, but the house has to be put in order at the central bank. Are you aware of those statements? Do they mean anything to you as well? Maybe I'll come to you after the minister. Thank you, Minister. To respond in it.
Questions for you. Thank you. Print of money at the central bank. I'm not very sure in what form is the printing. If we are talking about printing of paper currency, then there's no. Because what you might do in any economy is that all separate money separation. So if you talk about printing of money, whether if you are talking about currency, then there's no printing. If you are talking about the printing of money being government in overdraft, whereby government is being given money or printing money through issuing of new RTGSs, again the answer is no, because we haven't seen that. But what we've seen that government could have gone to the market with a few dollars for them to test the market with the treasury bills. And that was being done in the market, not through the central bank. So I'm not very sure about that. Then putting the house in order at the central bank, I've read in the newspapers, the social media, and as you said, through the radio. I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. They say sometimes people do not understand what goes through in the central bank. And as a result of that, people come up with their wrong perceptions and impressions. Let me put it clearly and unequivocal that the house is all in order. If you see, I said, it wasn't by mistake, that if you have a sick economy or an economy that is ill, when I talk about the medicines to give to the economy, whenever people who are already, who do not understand in an economy, they come up with also wrong perceptions about other individuals and entities. And it's expected, it's a democratic economy. And we like that. It's food for thought. And we like to hear that language because it makes us even much stronger. And it helps us to understand the people of Zimbabwe. And it also makes us understand that they don't understand. In life, you don't know what you don't know. You all know what you know. That's all about life. So what I can say that we always forgive them for they don't know what they'll be saying. Thank you.
A round of applause for Gabriel.
Thank you. Were we pushed because we couldn't pay salaries in US dollars? No. As I said earlier, the currency reform agenda started officially on the 1st of October last year. So we're on a journey, and this is a culmination of it. So we're not pushed at all. On the contrary, I think I was interviewed on Bloomberg TV, and then I mentioned something about the currency. And then the president said it 3 times in public gatherings. So you will bring prepared, but no one will care to listen as usual. And then we do it, we introduce the Zimbabwe dollar, and we say, but we're surprised, you didn't consult us, it could have been done better. In currency reform, processes like this, you prepare minds, you don't negotiate. You don't start negotiating, and then you call a referendum. Shall we have a Zimbabwe dollar or not? You don't do that. You act because you've done your analysis and you believe it is the right thing to do. And that's what we did. So we're not responding to salaries and so forth. As I said, what we'll do with salaries, we're going to make an adjustment, make sure there's a cushioning allowance. I think PS is fair that this week we'll conclude. We have a meeting tomorrow. I'll be at the Apex Council, I think the TNF, I think it's a TNF meeting actually. I hope we'll wrap up things because I'm ready to pay. I've got a figure already. I just want to see if it's accepted or not. We do that. And as I said, industry, please follow suit. Look after our employees. I don't understand when, it's always the civil servants who are marching against their employer. But I don't hear of private sector employees marching and complaining about their poor salaries from the private sector. I'm not inciting them, but I just wonder. Then I think the important points were mentioned regarding the independence of central bank. I support that. That part of us, weaning ourselves off the use of the overdraft with the central bank is exactly that. That we must not be dipping our hands into the central bank as government. We must stay far away from that, and we are doing that. And then something that has happened that you're not aware of is that we've been able to basically convert the legacy debts from the overdraft window into long-term dated paper, which eventually can be traded properly in the market. So that has happened. So if you go into the account of the overdraft window, the central bank right now, the treasury, it has 0 balances. So it's gone in its former form. So that's the beginning of that independence and the unshackling of the currencies, partly that. If you've got a one-to-one exchange rate, then it means that everybody is dependent on the central bank, including government. So government cannot be independent from the central bank. But once you introduce a market-based mechanism, your proper monetary policy, supporting fiscal policy, then you are on that journey to independence. Now, on fiscal management, yes, we are doing okay. They're saying the president is my confidence and vice versa, blah, blah. Well, that I agree with. But you can be sure that in terms of fiscal management, things are well run. Absolutely well run. I've got a fabulous PS, and then he's got a great team, everything's well done. But also there's very good coordination between Treasury and the central bank. Very good coordination. I saw something, the central bank has not paid workers at Zisco their salaries. Why are workers from Zisco being paid from the central bank? That has to stop. If they want their salaries, they go to the apparent ministry, then industry makes a request to Treasury. We sort it out within the government department. Central bank cannot pay salaries on behalf of a corporation or an entity. Otherwise, there goes your independence, right? So on the issue of legacy debts, legally is true. These are legacy debts for the private sector, but not for the government. Right? Let's be clear. So, but what's happening is that the government will assist the private sector in resolving these debts in terms of payment, whether it's through the exchange rate, the bit of Forex. That's something that's going to be worked out. We're quantifying those. We're aware of what they are. As government, we know what our debts are. We know. We're up to date. So, but also aware of what these legacy debts are for the private sector. Also aware of that. And we're busy working with the private sector and the banks to resolve this, to make sure that the government has already given a hint that we may use a party bond approach and some other approaches. But some kind of long-term dated instrument may be the way to go. We've done this before. We are right in the 80s, that's what we had. I think those bonds were paying like 4% interest, 2% interest. I remember those bonds very well. Because I was a young economist and I used to analyze them all the time. So well, we're headed in that direction. Let me see if there was something that was raised which I wanted to...
It's almost done.
It's enough.
Yes,
thank you.
Enough. A round of applause for Minister as I open the floor. The reason why we are here is because of your delegates. So I'll pick 3 first questions. Please respond. I see Zembe. We need balance. I see my chair, Rose Mpofu from SAS. Zembe is down. Rose Mpofu. Then my brother, he was the first to raise his hand. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, the Honorable Minister, and the Honorable Governor. And thank you for your presentations, together with the panelists. Firstly, let me just say, this is a business meeting. You came 45 minutes late. So we just want to appeal to you that that is reminiscent of politicians. In business, we keep time. Secondly, Minister, in your opening remarks, you agree you're doing a good job, which needs further improvement. But there is a phrase that you say which worries me, where you say, we are doing well, whatever we're doing well, despite what you think. That phrase, if it is a joke, it's a bad joke. If it is serious, that's bad. Because we are the stakeholders, and we are the market. And if you say, despite what you think, all you are saying is, you don't care about what we think. You just do what you want to do. And I don't think that's what you would like to do. So I think that's important. The next one, okay, is a question, but that one it has been answered. The issue of confidence. Confidence is a function. You may demand, we may do whatever we want, but we earn it in the process. I think it's very important. And it is a function of leadership and policy framework. And basically, Newton's law of motion says for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In fact, Minister, you quoted, you said, the government said you push and you pull. The reaction of the markets should tell you that there's something fundamental which is not okay. And if you don't listen to that and you don't, engage and communicate well with your market, you will go in one direction while the market is going in a different direction. And that's not. And that has happened in the past, and that's what has led us into this chaos and mess that we're in. So we are just appealing that we need to communicate and engage each other and be able to move together. So the confidence factor, and you see the market reaction, and even how full it is of these executives, okay, is because of the tension, the apprehension that is there in terms of the policy framework. And let me also lastly end up by saying, you know very well, Minister, and both the governor, that one of the devils in any economy is uncertainty. And the lack of confidence is this uncertainty that is created by policies, by the way our leadership, introduced policies. Like what happened with ASI 142 of 929. 24 hours before then, both you, Minister, and the President were saying, by end of this year, March next year. And within 24 hours, bam, you came in. You are creating confusion and uncertainty. Okay, and also you are failing to recognize that we are business, and business operates on a policy cycle where we say we've got this policy and we then plan our business based on that policy. And when you just overnight introduce something with fundamental changes like what happened, you actually destroy the good that you may be doing in the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Zim. Yes. After my brother, it was you. I'll come to you. The next day. Yes.
Mine is to the minister. So I'm Cleophas Manyebwa.
Could you present?
Sure, I am. I'm Cleophas Manyebwa. I come from the freight forwarding fraternity. Thank you, Minister, on recognizing airlines that they need to be paid in Forex. But I would like to say the airlines do not necessarily collect their money themselves. It will be collected, yes, by themselves to some extent, but also by travel agents and by people like us in the freight forwarding sector. Could we possibly give an arrangement that is clear and understood that we also will collect money from people?
Can you repeat that? I don't know. It's not clear.
Okay. In introducing the new arrangement, you say that airlines will be allowed to collect money in foreign currency. So what I'm saying is, airlines do not necessarily collect the money on themselves. They collect partly for themselves, and partly it's collected by travel agents and by freight forwarders. Freight forwarders are those who represent exporters and importers in dealing in the movement of freight. And by the same token, it's not airlines alone who would require payments to be made in foreign currency. There are also shipping lines and other people in the logistics business. For example, a shipment comes from China to Durban and must be collected from there into Zimbabwe. There are obligations to be paid in Durban. Those are Forex. And those will be collected by freight agents. So what I am saying is recognizing that the airlines require payment in foreign currency also means that other organizations in the logistical business also require that. And by the same token, could you please clarify and allow travel agents and freight forwarders to handle and collect foreign currency?
Oh, it's quite clear. Thank you very much.
My second one is on pricing. If you may allow me, please. Last week, I went into a shop and got a quotation for a product. I was given a quotation of 1,100 RTGS cash, not transfer, and a price of 1,900 RTGS. That means there's something in the economy that needs to be dealt with. You've dealt with one aspect of pricing, which is foreign currency. The second aspect is cash and RTGS. I think we need another whip on that aspect. I have stopped there.
For now, we allow others to ask questions. The next one. Ladies in the room, yes, my chair, my member, Rose of Chair, Standards Association of Zimbabwe. Yes.
Thank you very much, MC. What government has embarked on is a complete overhaul of the economy. And I would like to believe that through the use of various instruments that they are telling us and introducing, a lot is going to happen. But what I would like to say is that in any change process, if you are going to move alone, you will not achieve anything. I'll just reiterate Laxton's sentiments. The issue of confidence building is very key, because Zimbabweans have been there before. We've seen it all. We've suffered before. We've been bent. And we don't want to keep going in circles. What has government put in place as strategies to build confidence in its citizens? Because we really need confidence building programs, confidence building strategies, if we are going to embrace this change in the economy, which we all want. But if it's not trusted, if it's suspicious, we will not achieve it. So what are your strategies as government? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Round of applause for Madam Chair. Maybe before moving to the next round, I think it's coming out, confidence. Zembe was clear, Secretary Chair, Madam. Confidence is a function of what you do every day. If you demand confidence with policy inconsistency, lack of clarity in terms of policy, it can only be targeted. But then there is the gentleman who asked about the need, if possible, to push for payment by travel agents and others in that space, in hard currency. I think that's what I can respond.
Thank you. On the payment issues, the freight forwarding companies and the travel agents, whatever. Yeah, I think all what you are saying is that what you are saying, basically, you are saying, can you extend the dispensation which was accorded to the airlines to ensure that they pay their fees? Let me start by saying that airlines, just like freight forwarding companies, that's a foreign payment. The fact that the people who are using the planes, the airlines, are domestic people, doesn't make that transaction a domestic transaction. Because basically, the people who are using these airlines, and also taking note that we all are at about $150 million. And therefore, the whole idea was not to continue to increase that historical debt. I think that's things we're taking into account. But we've taken note of your request that freight forwarding companies, they pay for the services out of the country. And therefore, that request, we need to ensure that at least we bring it to our attention and make it the motivation through the normal banking practice, which you are quite aware of, through the Know Your Bank, and then we look into with a positive mind to look at the transition. So at the end of the day, it's not only for the individual, but for the sector. So thank you for bringing it to ourselves. We look forward to hearing from yourself. The difference between the RTGS quote that you got of 1,100 and 1,900 of RTGS transfer, again, it just shows the issue about confidence that you're talking about. And secondly, that Zimbabweans they want to use the cash for things that they know better, which is basically, they are saying this money we can make more money out of it. This one, using RTGS, we may not be able to make money out of it the way we do with the cash. Those are the challenges that we still have in this economy. Bear with us. I titled my presentation, Transition to Normalcy. We are in transition to the normalcy. So, but we have taken note of it.
Thank you, Governor. Let's develop a culture of clapping hands, either you agree or not. Minister,
yeah.
I think I don't want to overlook one issue which was raised by Zembe. He's saying, hopefully it's not a joke that you're saying you're doing well. After saving a small note, 18 hours without electricity. Business, you want them to push for salary increments, maybe. What are we saying?
No, I don't think you understood me at all. You completely missed the point.
It's another clarity.
You know, it's not another clarity. I'm not listening. I'll be fair with you. No, the point I was making is that we've got this vision 2030, where we are desirous to move to upper middle income status by year 2030. At the moment, we're lower middle income, in the lower middle income bracket, as confirmed by the World Bank. That was the point. And that was a point about the country, and not about the government. That the government is doing well. Who says that? No one says that kind of thing. I want to be clear about that. It's about the country. It's about showing that the journey that we have to travel is a very long one. Such a doesn't ambition. That says it's a very long journey. We need very strong growth. I did even refer to growth of the order of 6% and above. That's what we need to be able to get there. So clearly I wasn't making a very clear point about you and I, definitely not. Then on the issue, the important issue of building confidence, I can't remember, I think the individual over there, what's your name?
That's Rosenberg.
Rosenberg, yeah, thank you. I agree with you that the need to work together is very important. Industry, government, labor, that's why we believe that the TNF process is a very important process. But even this kind of dialogue this morning, just talking about the currency and things that are related to it, is very important. The continuous engagement between Minister of Industry as a lead ministry with industry is key. With the banking sector, again, is key. So continuous dialogue, working together, consultation is very, very, very important. Now, but the thing is like this, in terms of what we announced, this on our side is government, or in terms of stabilization, transition stabilization program, of the steps that we wish to take, we've been very consistent from the beginning. You can go through that document and literally tick boxes. If we haven't ticked a box, we're going to explain why, but we've been very, very consistent. In fact, there have been no surprises actually. When they're talking about the state enterprise reform agenda, and the issue about compensating farmers, we're very serious about that. We discussed that last time. We're very serious. It was 53 million that we said we're going to give out, 37 farmers registered. We're continuing to honor those. Of course, some glitches with administration, we're dealing with that. So there's no surprise. If you, in terms of this, what we pronounce, if you listen to us, please believe us, we're going to do exactly what we said we would say. There are no surprises. On the issue of the currency, that perhaps it was sudden and so on, it was not. That perhaps we announced that it will come much later, in March, April. We never made such a policy pronouncement that the currency would be in place in whatever. We never made such a policy announcement. The announcement, the reference that was made was when conditions are right. That was the message. And we felt that the conditions were right. Absolutely. And I must say this, we could not have negotiated the issue of introduction of the Zim Dollar sitting around the table. I say that at the beginning. No, you cannot do it like that when you introduce a currency in the circumstances that way to introduce it. Now, I think Governor just issue of the differential pricing between the cash and TGS, that premium on the cash side, something else. I think that's basically.
Basically, that's it. Yes. Let me go to the next week, political week. I'll pick President Mthuli Ncube, that gentleman, and the gentleman at the back. Thank you. Again for Mthuli.
Thank you.
President Ncube.
Oh, sorry, I was waiting for the mic. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Prices. We've noticed that as a sector, we have had now to do some direct engagement with the sector players so that they could change certain prices of selected goods. But this is very temporary, this is very short term, because a function of price reduction is going to include the whole value chain. That is where probably the manufacturer, the supplier is also going to come through with a credit note or something. So what you see right now predominantly is as a result of various sector players actually coming through, and most especially after the sham mantra, which came through recently. But the issue of the interbank, I think this is very fundamental. Where it works, I think it has got potential to eliminate or even minimize the activities at the parallel market. But I think over the weekend, we've started seeing the parallel market rates firming up. We don't know what is driving that. Whereas we thought the interbank had overtaken the parallel market and the activities were subdued on the parallel market. And my other issue
is that a comment?
It's a question. Is the interbank really, working on the side of the authorities? And then my other question again is, right now, predominantly, if you look at a number of retailers are actually running on generator. And this is not sustainable, Honorable Minister, because it also pushes the cost of running the business. And we are also afraid that if the power issue is not addressed, it may even cause some product shortages, because right now manufacturers, a lot of our suppliers and manufacturers are also facing the same challenge, and they're not doing adequate production. The reason why we have not seen the shortages, predominantly I think it is because of the pricing in the economy. If the pricing was favorable, because of the rate at which production is taking place right now, probably we could have been seeing some shortages here and there. Just like fuel. So load shedding, fuel, these are very critical issues to the business. If fuel supply is not consistent, it affects confidence. If load shedding is not managed well, it affects confidence, because you remember at some point, the former minister indicated that the country paid for 2-year power supply, only to discover that it was not true, or if it was true, probably maybe the payment is not gone through. And again,
I want you to have one.
Yes. And then the issue of austerity, how far are we, and when are we going to come out of this austerity environment, especially, Honorable Minister, looking at your budget surplus? Can you define the quality of this budget surplus, and what does it mean to an ordinary man on the street? Because I think the issue that was spoken by my brothers and is the issue of engagement, and even my sister Rose. Sometimes we introduce a policy, but there is no follow-up in terms of engaging and educating the people so that they understand what it really means. The reason why this house is full is because everyone was asking, so where are we? What is going to happen next? How should we plan? So I think those questions can be addressed if we really genuinely engage with private sector, and not only in Harare, but just across the country. Governor soon will be embarking on an exercise to go across the country, just educating the constituencies and the customers on the newly introduced Zim Dollar, because we've got so many questions that are coming through. So we'll also go with some technicals. Thank you.
Thank you, President Mtasho. Nelson Mtasho, the CZR president, said the recent fall in parallel market rates reflects the improved supply of US dollars when the official market as business and individuals are offloading their reserves. It is the local currency which is becoming scarce, hence its appreciation in value. So now I'm trying to miss what you are saying. Possibly I'm also not sure what is causing it. But there's a reason we are maybe here. But I might give you a chance later, maybe. The next one?
Thank you, MC. I've got 3 issues. Minister, my name is Effort Jera. I'm from Moyen Jera Legal Practitioners. You have indicated that litigation is misguided and that you are waiting for these people. After the introduction of SI 33, there was indeed confusion. The High Court has recently interpreted that statutory instrument to mean that it didn't intend to alter court orders. In that vein, people are now required, as per a judgment of the High Court that was delivered on the 19th of June, to pay for anything that was prior to 22 February 2019 at the rate and not at 1-to-1. That is something that has already happened, Minister. Now we've got two matters that are pending where the constitutionality of SI 142/2019 has been challenged. And we don't know how the court is again going to interpret it. Because what the government is doing and saying and what we are interpreting is not the same thing as what the court is then giving. While you are saying that I'm not afraid of this, I'm waiting for these people, the direction is already different from what is happening. So if a High Court is giving an interpretation that is different from the interpretation that you have given, can we say there is stability in this currency regime where it is being challenged? That's an issue, Minister, that we have to deal with. I'm not going to ask you to comment on something that is subject is, but clearly on, do we really say we are in a stability mode in terms of the currency regime? The second point goes to the Reserve Bank Governor. Governor, I'm sure you remember when the bond notes came, that we had a total time on this, whether it was going to maintain the 1-to-1 model. Now you agree with us that it has not maintained that 1-to-1. And here we are. Can we have confidence in terms of the policies that are coming up? Because what you vowed, I remember in the statement of the Reserve Bank, that we are going to maintain this and we are in this together. It's shown that we were not in it together. And the last thing that I want to ask is, you have spoken about production, and both of you have still not addressed the issue of security of tenure. You have indicated that I would want people to come to the Reserve Bank, go to banks, seek for loans to pay for center pivot. You see, it's very difficult to go and buy a center pivot. And the next thing is some powerful person somewhere who has now been appointed a governor saying, I now want that lane that you are.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's Rob Watson from CHIPS. I've just got two short questions. Pay-as-you-earn income tax tables, are those going to be reviewed in light, especially with the cost of living adjustments that you were suggesting that we should all give? Certainly would help the plight of everyone. The other one is around legacy debt. Have the banks all been communicated the processes or modalities on how to implement that? Whenever we speak to our bank, which is First Capital Barclays, they just say they're waiting for Reserve Bank. Thank you.
Quite clear. I'll give it to the panelists.
I figured out how to turn that on. On the issue of going out there to explain to people, but you said it yourself, that people from the Reserve Bank will be joining you to explain, but it's happening. So we're going out there to explain. So I didn't understand what your challenge was. We need to do more, I agree with that. We've not been very good at communication by the US government. Those are the facts. Since I've said it before, we're hiring a new communications person, to help us communicate better. I think we're almost there with that. We'll make sure that we can do better, including also in vernacular languages and so forth. We could do better with communication, absolutely. On the issue of austerity, specifically what it means and so forth, the issue about austerity is really for the government itself. We were the problem. We were indisciplined. And the idea was to send a message. It was probably a much stronger internal message than external message. That we need to be disciplined, we need fiscal consolidation, we need to eliminate wanton expenditure, reckless expenditure and waste and so forth. And I think we've made a lot of progress in that direction. So, to be honest with you, if you'd ask the same minister, do you still want to carry on with the message of austerity? I'll say the answer is no. I think I'm happy to declare victory. And then we move on to a period where we're focusing on growth. It's not about fiscal control. The system is working well right now. We're focusing on growth, on development, building confidence that we've been speaking about. That is where I really want to focus in terms of conversation going forward. Now, I think a colleague, I'm assuming is a lawyer, is it Gerard? Is that correct? Yeah. That are we in an environment now of stability and so forth? This is it. This is stability now. If you recall, I said this was a journey. Started officially on the 1st of October, and then the fuel changes in mid-January, and then 20th of February, and then 24th of June. So this was a journey, and this is the culmination of a journey in the introduction of a domestic currency as the sole legal tender and the elimination of a multi-currency. So if you think of stability, this is where it starts, absolutely. In terms of interpretation in courts of law and so forth, I cannot say much about that. There's a separation of powers between government and the judiciary, and they must make their own independent assessments of things. But we believe we acted within the law, we've consulted widely, and we'll argue as such. So we'll leave it to the courts to do their own job as well. We are separate institutions, absolutely. And then Secretary of Tenure and so forth. I think some of these are for the governor. The question about KYE, yes, we're going to do two things. We're going to increase the threshold. We have to, because inflation has eroded incomes for sure, and we can't continue taxing people who earn $350 a month. We have to do something about that. So we're working on it. We're running some simulations. We're going to raise that bar. In addition to the cushioning allowance that we refer to, at least for the government employees. Thank you.